Welcome to the lesson on the origins of malware and antivirus. But before we delve into the details, let's take a look at what we'll be covering in today's lesson on the origins of malware and antivirus. So first we'll start by exploring the very first instances of malware, where the concept of a self-replicating computer virus began. And from there, we'll look at how personal computers evolved and became fertile ground for the spread of these malicious programs. And we will also cover early types of malware, such as boot sector viruses, file infectors, macroviruses, and Trojan horses. Along the way, we will highlight some notable viruses that shaped the early history of malware, including Creeper, Brain, and L-Cloner. And finally, we will discuss the rise of the antivirus industry, how it responded to these threats, and how antivirus technologies have advanced over time. So let's talk about the first computer virus. Our journey begins in the 1940s. That was a time when the concept of self-replicating programs was only theoretical. And one of the key contributors to this theory was John von Neumann, a pioneering mathematician and computer scientist. Von Neumann's work on automata and automated reproduction laid the theoretical foundation for the idea of a computer virus, even though actual viruses didn't appear until later. This early exploration of how machines could reproduce tasks foreshadowed the digital threats we face today. It's remarkable to think that a concept from so long ago now plays such a critical role in modern cybersecurity. In 1971, we witnessed the birth of the first actual self-replicating program. It was called Creeper. It was created by Bob Thomas. Creeper was an experimental program that infected DEC PDP-10 computers operating on ARPANET, the precursor to the internet. And it wasn't harmful in the way we think of modern malware. Instead, it simply displayed the message, "I am the Creeper, catch me if you can." And Creeper is significant because it showed the potential of programs to spread between computers, a concept that would eventually evolve into more malicious forms of software. In response to the Creeper program, another piece of software was developed, Reaper, created by Ray Tomlinson. Reaper was designed to track down Creeper and delete it, making it the first ever antivirus program. And although Creeper and Reaper were largely experimental, this interaction marks the very first instance of an antivirus program being used to combat a digital threat. It's fascinating how these early programs were more like a game of tag, but they laid the groundwork for an industry that would grow into something much larger. As we moved into the 1980s, the widespread adoption of personal computers created new opportunities for malware. Personal computers allowed users to exchange data more easily, but this also provided a new pathway for viruses to spread. And this was the era of floppy disks, which were one of the most common ways to transfer files between systems. Viruses could now hitch a ride on these disks and infect machines where they were loaded. And this marked the beginning of a new phase in malware development and distribution. Let's look at some of the early types of malware that began to emerge in this period. The first type was the boot sector virus, which infected the boot sector of floppy disks, loading itself into memory when the system started up. File infectors were another type, attaching themselves to executable files, waiting to activate when the infected file was opened. Then we had macroviruses, which targeted applications like Microsoft Word and spread through infected documents. And finally, Trojan horses disguised themselves as a legitimate software but performed malicious activities once they were executed. So each of these types set the stage for more sophisticated attacks in the future. Some of the first notable viruses appeared in the 1980s. The Brain virus, which emerged in 1986, was the first PC virus. It was followed by the L-Cloner virus in 1982, which infected Apple II computers. And these early viruses were more pranks than serious threats, but they demonstrated the potential of viruses to cause disruption. As the technology evolved, so too did the intent behind these viruses, moving from harmless pranks to damaging malware. In 1988, a pivotal event in the history of cybersecurity occurred. It was the release of the Morris worm. It was created by Robert Morris, and this worm was the first to spread widely across the internet, infecting thousands of computers. And the worm wasn't intended to cause harm. It was rather a flaw in its code that resulted in it spreading far more aggressively than planned. The Morris worm highlighted the vulnerabilities of early computer networks and underscored the need for more robust security measures. It was a wake-up call for the cybersecurity community and led to significant developments in antivirus technology. By the late 1980s, we saw the first commercial antivirus solutions being introduced. And these early programs relied on signature-based detection, meaning they looked for specific patterns or signatures within files to identify known viruses. And while effective against known threats, this approach struggled to keep up with the rapid creation of new viruses. So, despite this limitation, signature-based detection was the foundation of the antivirus industry, which would continue to evolve over the coming decades. The antivirus industry saw substantial growth in the late 1980s and early 1990s. In 1987, G-Data Software released the first antivirus program for the Atari ST. A year later, McAfee Associates, now a major player in the antivirus market, was founded. By 1991, Symantec had launched Norton Antivirus, which became one of the most well-known names in the industry. In 1998, Kaspersky Lab was established, further cementing the growth of this vital industry. So each of these companies helped shape the landscape of modern cybersecurity. The 1990s brought with a major shift in malware distribution due to the widespread adoption of the internet. And suddenly, viruses could spread across the globe in seconds, and email became one of the primary methods of transmission. Malware creators began using email attachments and web-based threats to spread their creations. And this era marked the transition from local, disk-based viruses to global, internet-enabled malware, requiring new strategies for detection and defense. Some of the most infamous malware in history emerged during the late 1990s. Melissa, a macrovirus from 1999, spread through email attachments and caused widespread disruption by sending itself to the first 50 contacts in a user's address book. In 2000, the I Love You worm caused billions of dollars in damage worldwide, spreading through emails with the subject I love you. In 1998, the CIS virus, also known as Chernobyl, was capable of overwriting critical system information, causing serious hardware damage. And these incidents emphasized the growing sophistication and destructive potential of malware. As malware evolved, so did antivirus technology. Initially reliant on signature-based detection, antivirus programs became incorporating heuristic analysis, which allowed them to detect previously unknown viruses by analyzing behavior rather than relying on known signatures. Real-time scanning also became standard, enabling antivirus software to monitor system activity continuously and to detect threats as they occurred. And these advancements were necessary to keep pace with the growing number of complexity of malware attacks. The early 2000s saw the rise of new types of threats like spyware and adware. Spyware secretly collected user information, while adware displayed unwanted advertisements, often bundled with free software. These threats didn't always cause direct damage to systems, but they compromised user privacy and created a nuance. In response, antivirus software began integrating anti-spyware and anti-adware capabilities to provide more comprehensive protection for users. Rootkits became more common in the mid-2000s. These tools allowed attackers to hide malware from detection by operating at a deep system level. Rootkits were particularly dangerous because they could give attackers long-term access to compromised systems while remaining undetected. Antivirus companies had to adapt once again, creating tools specifically designed to detect and remove rootkits, which posed new challenges for the cybersecurity industry. Malware shifted from pranks to profit-driven tools as we entered the age of cybercrime. New threats like ransomware, banking trojans, and botnets became prevalent. Ransomware encrypted user files and demanded a ransom for their release, while banking trojans stole financial information and botnets hijacked computers for use in large-scale attacks. The motivations behind malware had evolved, with financial gain becoming a key driver for attackers. And this change marked a new era in the threat landscape, requiring more advanced defense strategies. Today, antivirus technology has advanced significantly to address modern threats. Cloud-based protection leverages vast online databases for real-time threat intelligence. Machine learning and AI are used to detect and classify new, unknown threats more efficiently. Behavioral analysis monitors program behavior to identify malicious actions that may not trigger additional signature-based detection. And finally, automatic updates ensure that antivirus software is always up to date with the latest threat information, providing better protection against emerging threats. As we look to the future, the battle between malware creators and cybersecurity experts will continue. New types of threats, such as fileless malware and AI-powered attacks, are emerging, posing even more sophisticated challenges for defenders. Antivirus solutions will need to keep evolving to stay ahead of these threats, and security professionals will need to remain vigilant. Continuous advancements in AI, machine learning, and real-time threat intelligence will be key to combating the next generation of cyber attacks. So, to wrap up, we have explored the origins of malware and the development of antivirus software. We have also discussed how personal computers helped spread early viruses and looked at notable examples of malware from the 1980s and 1990s, including the Morris worm, brain virus, and elk cloner. We also covered the evolution of antivirus technology from signature-based detection to more advanced techniques like heuristic analysis and real-time scanning. And lastly, we reviewed the current state of cybersecurity in the age of cybercrime, and we looked ahead to the future of malware and antivirus solutions. By understanding where we come from, we are better equipped to face the challenges ahead.